stage 7, where children enrich their thought process and their ability to pull knowledge in and be able to tell a personal narrative or retell a story and write. The bottom part are the expository text structures of description, compare, contrast, usually pertaining to information text. Wonderful novelists combine narrative text in a wonderful plot, and they will add knowledge or background knowledge or information and create wonderful stories. So to the right shows how we might attempt to roll out expository text along with narrative development, and we have alluded to that in past workshops. So today, because of the boy that we're talking about, the student that we analyzed almost 3 workshops ago, we're going to be talking about the critical thinking triangle, which is a special part of the story grammar marker. It sets the story grammar marker apart from other things and pulls together what happened, in other words, the kickoff, the feelings, the mental states, and then the formation of a plan. So this is a typical graphic organizer that might be used in school. Okay, we have a setting, we have a character, we have a problem, we have events, and we have a solution. And typically, when I was working with kids who had this graphic organizer, I would notice that the events got misordered, and by the time they were at the solution, it didn't relate to the kickoff or to the problem. So one of the things with the critical thinking triangle components added by the story grammar marker are that we have feelings both at the right after the kickoff for the motivation and right after the consequence for the little analysis of what happened. We have thoughts or mental states, which, as Sheila said at the beginning, are typically in the microstructure area. We're looking for them in sentences, but unless we think that way, we're not going to have them in our sentences. And then plans. So these things are missing in a traditional graphic organizer. So one of the big things about these workshops between Linda and myself are that we collaborate. We have learned to collaborate among all professionals. And one of the things that we might offer is to add these things to the traditional graphic organizers that people might be using. And when children start to make their own later on, they would have this to fall back on. This is the thinking bubble. Took a picture of this just to show you where it is. And it's not meant to always stay on the story grammar marker. It's when you have students who are able to talk about thoughts and you want them to talk about thoughts. That's why it's a magnet, and it can come off and just be put on a magnetic board for future use. So it's something that you use when you would like to. Here is the critical thinking triangle. And I think the one thing I didn't mention is the cohesive ties that are on the arrows of the critical thinking triangle. And most of you who have our story grammar marker manual written by myself and Holly Fidrich, you would notice the because and so and but that are written on the arrows so that children can begin to formulate sentences connecting all these parts. So ultimately, what do we want? We want oral language sentences that reflect thoughts. This is good for character motivation, for inference generation, perspective taking, because of course, there may be a kickoff, but definitely there are going to be different feelings and thoughts about that kickoff. We could have practice, theory of mind, critical thinking, problem solving, conflict resolution, and of course, it's vital. The understanding of this is vital for social communication. And we will be referring to the 7 stages of narrative today because we're going to be talking about a trickster tale. And of course, trickster tales involve perspective taking. So a trickster tale is very high on the stages of narrative. We just thought we'd put a little bit of this background here for each of the stages for you to look at. People often ask us about ages for stages, and really we look at whatever the student is presenting to us as the stage, and really not so much look at the age. So we may have a 4th grader or an 8th grader, as we are showing you today, who is functioning at like a stage 2 or 3, and they need to be beyond that. So we just thought we'd include these. You'll notice that the additive and temporal cohesive ties are present on each of the rectangles here. So about 8 years old, children should be able to tell a complete episode. And before I turn this to Linda, I wanted to mention John Hattie and the real focus of making learning visible. Having kids be able to see what they're learning and to know where they're going. And that's one of the things that most school systems focusing on children engaged in what they're learning, the children know where they're going. And so one of the things we're going to do today is to focus on that and show how the story grammar marker can help kids know what they don't know and know where they're going with you as their teacher. So we just had a few quotes because I've enjoyed the work with looking at John Hattie's effect sizes. There's a book that he co-authored with Fisher and Fry that relates to reading. And it's very, very important that teachers make learning goals evident to children. And how much more evident can you be but to see a visual like this and to be able to model it for them. Linda, did you want to talk here about the data teams?
I loved reading the Visible Learning for Teachers book. I just really became familiar with it in the last few weeks when I discovered it in my pile of information from Maryellen. And when we first did our first presentation, it was all about document, document, document. And I felt like what we talked about in that first presentation just goes right into this slide here. Data teams, all teachers have to have a common standard, a common area of focus. All teachers should be administering a common assessment that leads to formative interpretation. And all teachers should measure learning with a common scoring guide or rubric. And that's exactly what is in that data collection manual that Maryellen has written. It has all these forms in it that you can have a common assessment tool, a common scoring guide, so that when everybody is meeting to discuss a particular student, you're all in the same train going in the same direction. It's so difficult when everybody comes in with a different measuring tool, and Maryellen has made it so easy to really zero in on what's missing and where you need to go using the tools that are in that data collection manual. And I just thought this was a perfect way of documenting, saying exactly what Maryellen has done.
Okay, so you could continue there, Linda.
Well,
if you wanted.
he really delineates, and I like the way the whole title about visible learning for teachers. We often think about visual as we divide instruction into, like, we're going to use this auditory way, or maybe we're going to use a kinesthetic process, or maybe we're going to use a visual approach. But he's not talking about that. He's talking about taking the thinking that's going on in kids' heads and actually putting it right out in front of you so that you can analyze it to see what they're thinking. So he wants you to start collecting and charting data You need to make the data visible. We need to have some type of a rubric that we're looking at so that we're all talking about the same thing. And then using that data, we're going to set and revise incremental goals. And I think that's really important, that word incremental, because these kids move as slow as molasses. So we have to think about where they are and what's the next little jump that we can push them to. And then you question, is this working what we're doing? Do we need to change it? What needs to remain? What results would we see here that we'd say, wow, this is working what we're doing? Or what results would we say, wow, this isn't working? We need to go back and see how we're going to change what we're doing, because we can see from their thinking and what they're saying and what they're doing that they're not learning. And then you finally monitor it and the impact of the strategy, the impact on student learning. So you decide, wow, this strategy worked for this group of kids, or no, this strategy did not work for this group of kids. And I think then you have more of a leg to stand on when you're talking to administrators and to teachers and to everyone to make an impact on the strategies that you want to implement in with these students.
Yes. And I think this is a honing in on Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. So anyway, making this is just another slide from the Hattie book that we thought would be valuable to you. You know, evidence from what the students do and say and write so that we can understand how they're thinking. Okay, all students have to have the opportunity to explore and apply. They have to, we have to do frequent formative interpretation, which would be minor assessments to see where they are and how they have grown in what we're actually teaching them. Grouping them flexibly, which happens all the time with us as SLPs, and how we should engage students in an active manner.
Can we just go back 1 second to the one about feedback? I just wanted to talk about the last bullet, the slide even before this.
Yep. There.
Feedback. Feedback levels, I love this part of his book. Feedback that we give to students can either focus on the task, so you can talk about the actual activity that you're doing, you're having them implement, but you can give student feedback on the process, how they approached the whole process. How did they decide to go about solving the question that the teacher's asking? Or feedback that you give a student could be on their self-regulation. I like the way when you got stuck, you did blah, blah, blah. I like the way when you knew what you were doing, you shared it with your team or whatever it is. And then finally, typically feedback is on self. And typically teachers are giving feedback that's like praise. Oh, that was a good job. But they're finding that that kind of feedback, praise feedback, doesn't tell the child what they need to know to change their thinking. It's not whether you've done a good job or a bad job, or you worked hard or you didn't work hard. It has to be specific feedback. And so we need to think about the task, the process, or self-regulation. And using the tools in Maryellen's data collection unit, you can focus on the task or the process or self-regulation based on the information she has in those manuals. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was important.
Thanks. Okay, so this leads us up to the gradual release of responsibility that we spoke of the last time.
Yes, and so this time when I was doing the, based on the feedback we received, I really felt I needed to go back and explain more about how to use some of these strategies as you're doing your lesson plans. And this isn't, I'm not expecting you to use the information we're presenting today in a one lesson deal. This is something that's can go over weeks. You can take a picture book and you can use it to address several strategies. And on the slides where you see the little yellow sticky note, this is just a note to yourself. You're going to take each of these gradual release responsibility model slides and you can enlarge them and laminate them, and you would post them in the classroom while you're doing a lesson. And as we explained before, the I do is where the teacher is doing all the work and the child is an observer.
Mm-hmm. You have doesn't Linda can she?
Yeah.
You can forward them, Linda.
Oh, how do I do that? Just with my?
I think so.
Just your arrow. No?
Sorry.
Okay.
Little technical moment. I just gave you remote control. You should, did it ask you to accept it?
You can control Maryellen Moreau's screen, it says.
Oh, all right. Hold on. Let me.
Now it says I'm viewing the screen.
Okay.
Click to start the mouse.
Yeah.
So I can click the arrows.
If you, yep. Oh,
Oh, went back to the beginning. Wait
uh,
a minute.
hold on. Resume slideshow. Okay.
All right, let me
Does
see
it
what
work?
happens now. No,
Does-
it says I'm controlling the screen and I'm on the I do, but if I hit the downward arrow, what about if
Yep.
I hit, oh, did that work? Or did you do
Yep.
that?
No, that worked.
No,
Okay, cool. I'll try it. I'll see if I can get it for the next one. So the we do is where you're working, doing the activity with the child. We're doing it together. So the teacher can still be demonstrating, but the child is also doing the activity at the same time. And then after that is a you all do. And I used to like to say y'all do. This is where you're handing over the responsibility. And the way I used to apply y'all do is they were doing this with a partner, because the students that I worked with were so impaired, it was very hard for them to go from a we do just to a straight you do. And this gave them a little bit more scaffolding to do a y'all do to do with a partner. And it's important at this point that part where you're really thoughtful about who you're pairing them up with, so that you just don't have the ones that everything comes easy to always together and the ones that are having a more difficult time together. Mix and match, and you'll find over time who works well together. But this is where they're starting to do their independent practice. And then finally you have a you do, which is really, to me, where they're really doing it independently. It may be a very, very similar activity, or it may be one that's a little bit more of a stretch. And as I said in the last presentation, I like to have all 4 of these up on the board. If I'm just doing the I do, just the I do is up there. But when it gets to the point you're ready to do a y'all do or you do, all 4 of them are up there, and the child decides, are you still ready? Do we still need to do a we do today? Do you need to be with me? Or are you ready to a y'all do or a you do? And when you allow them to make this decision, you're actually making their thinking visible. You're doing that visible learning. You're trying to find out where they're coming from by what they say and what they do and what they write.
Great.
All right.
Okay, so this is the language sample, the story sample, the retelling that we did using Merritt and Lyle's narrative assessment shipwrecked story. And this was a boy, was in 8th grade at the time. And when we looked at his narrative and assessed it that time, he has kickoffs and reactions. And when you look at his sentences, they begin with and or when and then and then and then. And we don't have too many of becauses or so's or things like that. So we're talking about a student who's in 8th grade who was actually at a reactive sequence stage in his narrative. And then we're going to be getting a little bit into Doc Hub here, where we're going to be looking at the progress monitoring tools that we had used before. Linda, jump in if you wanted to say anything.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Here.
Yeah.
So we
That's
had,
just to kind of show.
yes, this is kind of just to show you. These were in that little booklet that we had called Zoom.
Zoom in on
Zoom into
document.
documentation.
Zoom in
It's
on
the slide. It's the slide before on our 39-page Zoom in on documentation.
Okay.
Whoop. It's the next one here.
Okay. So
Wait, did you?
no, here I have this. Now I'm going into
What was before that?
But it's the one before it that has it,
Zoom in
right?
on documentation.
Because people had asked in the last webinar where they could find this download that gave, that actually had the forms in it, and that actually had the step-by-step directions on how to do it. And we had a lot of questions last time, so we just thought we would put the URL there. But it will be in the slides that you get afterwards. So don't worry if you haven't, taken a picture of it.
So this was showing you step-by-step Linda's process and documentation.
Right.
So anyway, when we were assessing him, this is what we did in that first webinar. And we wanted to just show you these. Now these tools are in that. assessment, the
The
zoom
zoom
in.
into documentation.
zoom
Yeah.
in
And they're
on-
also in our data collection
Yes.
manual, if you have that manual.
Mhm. So what I wanted to mention here on these is these are good for looking at where a child is, but they're also great for you determining where you want to go with that child for the next time you're going to do a formative assessment. So here we have, he had a pronoun to use to name the character. We would want him to start using character names. We'd probably, because he's in 8th grade, what would we want him to be doing? Maybe physically describing the character and personality traits. So he has a long way to go. We had no internal response, even though the story Shipwrecked has those internal responses in it. He stated the kickoff, and he related it to the character and the setting. There were no thoughts or mental states expressed. There was no plan. In the critical thinking triangle, one component was 2 components. And planned attempts, he had attempts that were sequenced. And that was what? Relative to his kickoff, and these were the reactions. There was a consequence almost as a result of the actions that he took. And then he had a narrative expression score of 16, and we talked about this in depth. We also looked at the microstructure analysis. That was the macrostructure. So the microstructure is looking at the sentences that he's using, because we're wanting to, when we're looking at a child, not to just think about the organizational structure, but how the child got there. And they get there by formulating pretty good sentences with cohesive ties in them. So in here, he had compound sentences. The first 3 are, was there a subject and a predicate? Was there a pronoun referent? Did he have referent for his pronoun? Did he have a verb structure? And then we begin to look at literate language features that were in his sentences. And those of you who have been at a workshop that I've given, we're always, that's the second part of the analysis, where we take a book and we look for the literate language features that a book might have in it so that we could model. So we're looking at his language now for the literate language features. He had a noun modifier, which means he had an adjective at least. He had additive and temporal conjunctions, so he used and he used then. His adverbs, he had ly adverb, and he didn't have any mental state verbs or linguistic communication verbs. He had a score of 14. So when we do look at him again, we would want to see how his macro and micro scores improved. And in that vein, to lead into that, this slide was from the last presentation. There was a wonderful issue of Topics in Language Disorders that came out just before or during COVID. And anyway, it was all devoted to language samples and narrative assessments. So one of the parts that we especially liked was when you look at a goal, what are you doing? You're looking at a goal. For instance, in this instance here, it's a grammar goal, a microstructure goal. Now we have macro and microstructure goals for this boy. Then we have to kind of ferret it down and see where we're going with that. Well, within the area of grammar, we're looking at complex sentences. Within the area of complex sentences, what are we looking at with him? Well, one of the things we want to get him to do is to include the elements of the critical thinking triangle and be able to relate them using but and so and because. And I had given an example of that from my granddaughter Lauren in that first workshop, and it's there as the example. And so as we ferret this even down further, we come to a sub-goal. We're going to work on mental state verbs with this boy because he needs to start including the elements of the critical thinking triangle in his narratives. He's at a stage 3. He's in 8th grade. So one of the things is to show him what he needs to do. And one of the ways to do it is to create a concept map about what he's going to learn and making it visible to him. So we were thinking that a great way to do it is to use maps from the Story Grammar Marker and the Theme Maker to show the relationships between what we're thinking he should do and him knowing what he should do. So Linda, did you have any?
Nope, I think that I think everything that Maryellen has created ties right back to this visible learning. When you start having children fill out these forms, and when you use these forms, these rubrics and these tools, they're going to see your thinking, you're going to be modeling your thinking out of your head, and then you're going to see their thinking, and I just love it.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we have always had even in the beginning Story Grammar Marker manual,
Actually,
which I'll get to.
Sorry, somebody just had a
Yes.
question, and I thought maybe other people might have that too. Just about progress monitoring in relation to text complexity. For example, like in the shipwrecked retell, do you later reassess at the same level of text to compare to the baseline? This is where it sometimes can get tricky because complexity of tasks increases and dynamic shifts can impact the data. And
That's
then,
true.
so the idea of going back to the same type of text, is that a good measure of progress in a more absolute way?
Well, I like to look at where the child is presently and look at how far they have come. I always look at their longest sentences, for instance, to see what they have for cohesive ties. So you can take, it's not going to be static that children, what they're doing is going to remain the same forever. And so what I do is I take whatever I'm working on and relate it to the past. Linda, do you have?
Well, and I agree with you. I think you're going to want to look at the text complexity to make sure you are comparing apples to apples. And right away, when I read that question come across, I was thinking of this manual.
Yes.
Yes, I did mention that, yeah.
Yes, because there's a sentence complexity quick check that there's a checklist in here. So you could take, if you want to make sure you're measuring apples to apples, you would use this. It's called the sentence complexity quick check. It's on page, I don't know, it says 1 or 2, but I'm not sure where it is here, page 56. And you would compare them to them. I think that is important, especially if you're in that same school year. Like we would jump up in text complexity if they got a year older, but in that same school year, we did try to stay with a similar type text so that you would be comparing apples to apples.
Because you want to do that, but you realize that everything's dynamic and everything changes. And that's why we wrote Investigating Text Complexity and Close Reading, because how we are looking at everything with children with language impairments is kind of different from the general education process. So we have to make some kind of parallels. All right. I don't know if we can include that sometime as a handout, those pages that Linda referred to. The pages that you referred to, people might think would be valuable as as part of the handout from the text complexity book.
Yeah,
So
it's
you'll
page
tell
56.
And it enables us to look at the sentence structure. All right, so right before that statement was about the concept map and how we want to make the process visible. So we've had forever I can statements in the Story Grammar Marker manual, which I'll show you in 1 minute. But with this boy, we want to work on kickoffs and feelings, and we want to work on thought bubble, because we want to really pull in the critical thinking triangle. So to talk to a group about what they're going to learn, to make it visible to them, today we're learning how kickoffs and feelings relate to each other, so that we can talk about why characters feel certain ways in the story or in life. Then we'll talk about kickoffs and feelings in our own lives. What does the student say? Today I'm learning how kickoffs and feelings relate to each other so that I can talk about why characters feel certain ways in Zomo, which is the story that we're going to use, in Zomo the Rabbit. Then I'll talk about these feelings in reaction to kickoffs in my own life. We've put this in here so that you could look at it at your leisure, but it's kind of how to help somebody go about them. I'm able to identify feeling words, which would be to begin with. I'm able to correctly relate appropriate feeling words to at least one kickoff. Now, those might take a long time to develop, but these are the ways that they can see where they are in what we're doing with them. Then last time we talked about a growth mindset, like I can do these things, I will be able to do these things. So this is a way to show the growth mindset in what we're doing. I will be able to express the thoughts related to kickoffs and feelings of characters. In this case, it would be Zomo the Rabbit. And then there's a group statement about using a thought bubble. Same thing, thoughts and mental states. And then the growth mindset, what he knew, what Zomo knew and remembered to help him gain wisdom. Now that's what we're going to talk about today, Zomo the Rabbit, that's the story. But this is a page of the self-reflective checklist from the Story Grammar Marker Manual, the original one, and the I can statements that are there. What I just showed you is an advanced I can statement group of pages.
But again, this is another way of making their learning visible to them and their thinking visible. All of this thing is just, it's all visual, making it outside their head.
So if you wanted to start, you could just go back into your manual, your Story Grammar Marker Manual, and start with these I can statements, and then lead into more advanced ones.
Because they don't know where they're at. They're constantly being told where they're at by us, but they need to see where they're at and see their progress so that their learning is visual to them.
And so the story that we're going to elaborate upon is Zomo the Rabbit by Gerald McDermott. And Linda, you had wanted to talk about, before we read the text,
That's right,
some background knowledge.
So one of the things that's just so important to do before you do anything is always to build some background knowledge. That's really one of the things, even in that visual learning book by Hattie, he talks about that. Good teachers, expert teachers take the time to build background knowledge. Good teachers, expert teachers take the time to connect what you're currently presenting today and tie it into what they've previously learned to make that connection for students. So it says, oh, there we go. So in addition to a book walk, as most teachers are familiar with before they present any book, I would think that you would also want to discuss the geographical setting for this book so that they understand that. And you could use maps like this, you can use web links. And so this story takes place in West Africa. And I have included some links for you. There we go. So I included some links for you, the Africa Facts for Kids to learn about West Africa, and the Kids World Travel Guide has additional information so that they can learn about it. And I just chose these 3 pictures because in Zomo the Rabbit, he is playing a trick in 3 different settings. He does it by the water, he does it in the jungle, and he does it on a path. So I just chose that so I could be like Sheila with my visuals.
How great is that?
Again, you see the little sticky note in the corner. So this again shows you this is another way that you can prepare a lesson for them. So here is, this book is a trickster tale. So they need to have some background information about what a trickster tale is. And I would not hand this out to them completed. I would develop this as we're having a discussion, and you could either do it digitally or you could do it on paper. So a Trickster Tale is a short story written to entertain and typically as well as to teach a lesson. The trickster is usually an animal that has human traits such as talking. Trickster likes to trick others to get what they want, and the trickster can be a good character or a bad character, kind or unkind. There isn't one typical personality trait of a trickster. And then I just wrote you a topic sentence down there. Trickster tales have several characteristics, for example, and then the students would be able to write a summary with that, and then using those keywords in the boxes to tie those beads together. A vocabulary card is another way to build some background knowledge. So you can take the word trickster, and I would provide a copy of this to the students with just the word and the picture included in it. And then I would complete the remaining sections either digitally or on paper. So you would talk about a trickster as a clever person or a prankster. The opposite of that is the person who's the victim of their trick. A definition from the Code Dictionary, which we talked about in the last presentation. A trickster is a person who tricks people, often in order to get something. And then in terms of the sentence example, the first sentence example would be a sentence that the teacher has written, but the second sentence is when you're asking them to now write their own sentence using that vocabulary word, so that you see if they're demonstrating. And remember how Hattie talks about making learning visual. So you want to see if you, by something they write, if you're going to be seeing whether they're thinking is where you want it to be. So here's one way. And then another way is to do a vocab is using the Frere method. So here I just showed you another format, and it's the same process. You're going to give them this copy with the word, the definition, and the picture, and then you're going to do the remaining sections digitally or on paper. And again, in terms of that, where it says the non-example box, I used to write sentences there. So Zomo the Rabbit was I forgot the word, a trickster who fooled several other animals into giving him something he wanted. And then a student sample might be his older brother tricked him into doing something he did not want to do. So just again, another format for the kids. After you've done the Zomo the Rabbit, and taken them through this, I wanted you to see other Trickster Tales that you could use to build a unit on this. And these are just 3 that I particularly have at home, but those are links to Trickster Tales from around the world and background information on Trickster Tales for students. So just to help you with that. And now today, is Frere a phrase sight words? No, it's the Frere it's the Frere concept mapped is from a different text that I have in the hallway that I can go get in a second. But this on this page, Zomo the Rabbit, this is a link to a woman reading Zomo the Rabbit, but the last time we tried links like that, it didn't work. So we're going to read it to you live today. But this is in case you'd like, when you're using this PowerPoint presentation, you can click on the link and you'll be directed to a YouTube video of a woman reading it.
And I think, Linda, the Frere model goes back to the 60s, actually.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get my book. You would definitely know that more than I would. But anyways, now we're going to get into well, because you're like a walking encyclopedia. And anyways, Maryellen's going to, and I just love this book, Zomo. Have fun listening.
It's a great choice now. Think of perspectives. Zomo the Rabbit. He is not big, he is not strong, but he is very clever. Time was, Zomo wanted more than cleverness. He wanted wisdom. He went to the sky god and asked for it. Zomo, it is not so simple, said sky god. To get wisdom, you must earn it. How? Asked Zomo. You must do 3 impossible things, answered the sky god. First, bring me the scales of big fish in the sea. Second, bring me the milk of wild cow. Third, bring me the tooth of leopard. I will try, said Zomo. Zomo went to the edge of the sea. He began to play his drum. He played so loud, his drum beats went down to the bottom of the sea. Deep below, Big Fish heard the music of the drum. Big Fish came up out of the water. He danced on the sand, faster and faster. Zomo beat his drum. Faster and faster, Big Fish danced. Big Fish danced so fast that his scales fell off. Big Fish was naked. Splash, he jumped back into the sea. Quickly, Zomo scooped up the fish scales in his hat and hopped into the forest. In the forest, Zomo climbed a palm tree. He looked all around, then he saw a wild cow. Ha, laughed Zomo. You are not so big. You are not strong. Who is that laughing at me? Asked Wild Cow. It is me, called Zomo. I say you are not even strong enough to knock down this little tree. Wild Cow got angry. She ran at the tree to knock it down. Thump! She hit that tree, but the palm tree was soft. Her horns got stuck. Quickly, Zomo slid down the tree. He turned his drum upside down and filled it with milk. By the time Wild Cow got unstuck, Zomo was far away. Zomo took the path to the top of a high hill. It was the hill where Leopard walked every day. Zomo tipped his hat and sprinkled a few fish scales on the path. Zomo tipped his drum and spilled a few drops of milk on the path. Then Zomo went to the bottom of the hill. He hid behind a rock. Soon, Leopard came walking over the hill. He slipped on the slippery scales and milk. He rolled down the hill. Bump! Leopard hit the rock. His tooth popped out. Up jumped Zomo. He caught that tooth. Quickly, he hopped away. Zomo took the scales of Big Fish, the milk of Wild Cow, and the tooth of Leopard to the Sky God. Sky God smiled upon Zomo. You are clever enough to do the impossible, he said. Now I will give you wisdom. Sky God spoke. Zomo listened. 3 things in this world are worth having: courage, good sense, and caution, said Sky God. Little rabbit, you have lots of courage, a bit of sense, but no caution. So next time you see Big Fish or Wild Cow or Leopard, better run fast. Zomo is not big, Zomo is not strong, but now Zomo has wisdom, and he is very, very fast. I thought this was great.
And
I love this book.
Yeah, that's great. And there was a question about what grade level this was appropriate.
Yes, I saw that. And I like that somebody's saying they're originally from Jamaica. And I love, and I agree with you. And the Trickster Tales are often written to explain something. So this Trickster Tale was written to explain why bunny rabbits run so fast. Mm-hmm. He's got everybody in the world mad at him. So he's got to hightail it out of there. And in terms of grade level, we were trying to think of a way to help you teach this critical thinking triangle to students. And one of the easiest ways to do anything is to back up to a lower level and use a picture book, because it's quick and dirty. It's a fast way of presenting it. And then you can spend a ton of time talking about that critical thinking triangle. So I would use this up to middle, what do you call it? Like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. You're not presenting this because you want to get into this in-depth discussion of these characters right now. You're trying to teach this whole critical thinking triangle, and you're trying to teach them to think about characters thinking. So you're using a simpler book right now today because you're going to use that to segue to something more sophisticated, using a chapter book or whatever you need to do ultimately. And going back to the key vote, to the Freyer method, just to show you how smart Maryellen is, on the bottom it says that this was created in 1969, as she said, and the Freyer method is in this book called The Key Vocabulary Routine by, is it Joan Sedita?
Oh yes, Joan Sedita, yes, from Massachusetts.
And
right.
Yes, And there's 2 books that go with this. There's the Key Vocabulary Routine by her, and there's also the Key Comprehension Routine, and they are just filled with strategies to use with students with language-based learning disabilities. And that's where I learned of the Frater method.
So, okay.
All righty. So this is just the completed, one of the strategies I always did is I would always place the completed graphic organizer for a book in the book, so that I always had it. So anytime I wanted to teach that lesson, it was right there, either in a sheet protector or folded up. If I wanted an instructional.
Yes, and you know,
Pardon?
I wanted to say too about older kids and something like this, you can tell them how deep you're going to get with it.
That's
and
right.
how much they're going to realize afterwards, how much they're going to think.
That's right. Yeah. And so, anyways, that's where I just leave that in the book there. So that is just a summary of the complete book for you to have as a reference. So the next area that we wanted to talk about was teaching vocabulary. And again, as we talked about the last time about the tiers of vocabulary from Beck, these are the words that I felt were more of a tier 2 and a tier 3. And I would concentrate on clever, wisdom, courage, and caution. And then I would explain the other ones as I was reading the passage, because scales can, you know, be one of those words you weigh yourself on a scale versus the fish scale. So that's it, would be a tier 3.
Yeah.
And then again, this was presented in the second presentation we did. And this I would model as an I do. So you're going to ask the students to rate you as a, whether the word, they know what it is, they've heard it before, but they're not sure what it means, or they have no clue what it is. You want them to, you want to see where their thinking is. You want to make their thinking visible to them as well as to yourself. So they're going to rate themselves. And then you would use the following vocab cards to develop their understanding of the words. So again, it's the same process. You give them the word, the definition, and the picture, and then you do the remaining information. So clever, someone who is clever is intelligent and able to understand things easily. I also did the word wisdom. When you have wisdom, you use your knowledge and your experience to make sensible decisions. And I love the Albert Einstein. A clever person solves a problem, a wise person avoids it. I just love that on there. The next one that I gave you so that you can do this unit is
Linda, can you explain non-examples?
Oh, I don't do non-examples. I put the sentences in. The original Frere map has a non-example in there, but I use it for sentences. So a non-example, if you want to use the Frere map the way it would be, a non-example of the lack of wisdom is somebody making a foolish, you know, something that shows not understanding or learning. So it could be a sentence or it can be a word in there.
Okay.
Tier 2 words we all should know and aren't contents, but so it's probably why she put vain. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I put a vain is not a content specific word, and that's why I put it in the second level, correct. So when I have my Frere map, I actually cross off non-example and I put sentence because I'm trying to use the other format of the other vocabulary card that I do, but when it doesn't always translate over when we're trying to do these presentations. But for my language impaired kids, I'm trying to get them to get the basic example right now. But for a second lesson, you could do the non-example. That would be great. Caution, a person who shows caution takes care in dangerous situations. And then finally, and that was the last one. This activity is another activity that I included this time. This is great for English language learners as well. So if I say something that is clever, you are to say clever. If not, don't say anything, and I will ask you why. So then you would say to the students, creating a new invention, and hopefully your class would say clever. Then you would say having trouble learning the rules of a game, and hopefully they would say anything, and then you would say why. And they would respond, well, if you're having trouble learning something, that means you are not a clever person. The next one, tricking somebody and telling you a secret. Hopefully the kids would say clever, and so on and so forth in that manner. And at the end you say, what's the word that means intelligent and able to learn things easily? And you want them to again say out loud, clever. So this gives students, especially ELs, an opportunity to say this word over and over again, and it gives you an opportunity to make their learning visible, because you're asking these, giving them these examples, and you're finding out whose thinking is with you and whose thinking is not there.
Great.
The last time we spoke, we also talked about mental imagery. So this is a review. And again, there's the sticky note. So the visualizing and verbalizing strategy may also be taught using this book. So instead of showing the pictures to the students, you could take another Trickster Tale or this book, whatever, and instead of letting them see the pictures, you're going to have the book face you, and you're going to read the text on that page. And then you're going to ask the students to tell you the movie in their mind. And then either one student or as a group, they're going to give you this information. And then when you're done with that movie, you're going to show them the illustration and determine which elements they agree with the illustrator. And then you're going to discuss those differences in a respectful manner. What happens a lot when one child does a summary, the other students might say, well, that's not right, or I didn't see it that way. And you want to practice summarizing this and saying, wow, what I saw was this, and what you're seeing is this. And you want to teach them how to have this conversation where they're giving some feedback in a manner that's appropriate. A lot of times, if you're reading a page from a book and you ask them to summarize it, they will give you information based on their own background knowledge that doesn't really relate to the words you actually just read. So it's a perfect example to say, wow, I see that you're seeing that based on your past experience. Let's go back to this text. What did this text actually said? So can we really include this in this one? No, because that's not what the author said at this point. Remember, the illustrations need to be, they have to be reflective of the text. And then you would proceed to the next page, and then you would say, how has your movie changed? Because you want them to understand that they're just making minor changes on this next one. On the next page, you may not need to go through all these structure words. And oh, that's great. And then the pragmatics chart, I love it. And I also like the way Maryellen has the non-linguistic ones. You have a thought bubble with them on some of the pages.
Yes.
And then on the linguistic narrative related components, you have the purple ones with a speaking bubble. So I think that's really important for children to know that the non-linguistic ones are taking place in their head. They're thinking about these. And when you see that they're not following those, you can see that their thinking has gone astray. It's made visual to you, in addition to what you're hearing come out of their mouth. So I love this.
And then we have to really tune into body language and tone of voice.
Oh.
And, you know, those are very important. And of course, body language with masks is going to be hidden in a lot of ways this time around. So we, yeah, we want to think about that.
That's right. And their tone of voice might be more on the negative side. They're going to be irritated
Yeah.
with the way the day is. So some of the ways to teach visualizing and verbalizing is I take these individual structure words with the icons and I have them on individual index cards on a ring. And I used to also put a magnet on the back of each index cards. So these, when you're first teaching it, the index cards, the student can have them on the desk in front of them. And as they include each element, they can turn that over to help guide them as they're doing it. Another way of doing it is they can be facing the class and these index cards could be behind them and they would be on the dry erase board. And then the teacher can be writing their content down as they're saying it. And then another student could be summarizing it. And the fact that you've written it on the board gives them the support to do this verbal summary for them. And then you want to make sure you're practicing speaking in sentences typical of conversation. We don't want it to be the what is, the where is, the movement is, because that's not how you come home and tell your mom or dad a story about your day. And since it was so difficult for my kids to do all those 12 structure words, I came to the realization after teaching for several years that I wanted to start with just these 4 elements. They corresponded to the beginning of a complete episode. They gave me the most bang for my buck for understanding if their movie was with me, and they would tell me the what, the where, the movement, and the mood, and we would start with that to begin with. And once I knew they had a solid foundation of those, I would then go to the, what I call the icing, and they'd give me this additional information. This information to me was not as important as the information in the beginning.
And it works so well integrating with the story grammar marker.
It does. Yeah. Yep. I would hold up the story grammar marker next to those structure words on the cake ones. I would hold them right up on the board and just go over this and over again. Because again, you want the structure words and you want the story grammar marker to be something that they visualize in their head, so that that guides them as they're remembering. Just like I go to the grocery store and I can visualize the store, how it's organized, and set up my list. You want them to use that strategy to organize their thoughts. I think that when it comes to teaching main idea, it gets overwhelming about what is the main idea, where do I start? And I think if we all just realize the main idea is the critical thinking triangle, which includes really 5 elements. It's the kickoff, the feeling, the plan, the mental state verbs, as well as the cohesion that ties it together. If we teach children that this is when the teacher wants to know the main idea, this is what she wants, they're going to be golden in answering questions for her.
Okay.
So I love this chart. Maryellen, you can talk about this.
And actually, Sheila, you helped me create this chart with the child-friendly definitions of what it is to know, to think, to remember, and a story that goes along with illustrating what it is to know, think, remember, realize. Realize it becomes real in your eyes. I think that one, Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson is huge for that, because the realization that this little girl could have been more kind ends the story. So anyway, different things like what is a thought, something in your head that is not said out loud. What do you do with an idea? Things like that. So I love all of these books that illustrate these mental states, but this isn't something that you do in 2 sessions. It's something that you take and you work through when children get either by age that they're supposed to be thinking about thinking, or that you have brought them to that level. So these are wonderful books, and they're just some samples that I came across.
Yeah.
So the gradual release of responsibility, you would want to talk about each of these words as you release responsibility to the students. They don't really know. You really have to even focus on what it is to remember. And then here I am with my new shirt, wearing the cohesive tie with words that are going to actually appear in the cohesive tie jargon. But anyway, they're think, know, remember, and realize. And then on the other side, it's the past tense. So today I think, yesterday I thought. So I knew, so there's regular and irregular, remembered and realized have the ED. So regular and irregular past tense. So it's important to know that, wear the tie with the verbs and talk about constructing sentences. Also, the cohesive tie with the cohesion words on it. You know, but, and the synonym for but being since, so that children can go from just using but, if we can get them to use but, to also using since. What do you think, Linda? Anything?
I think that's great. I love it, because again, you're making the learning visual, and yes, then you see what they're doing, and you just see from them. And I think it's perfect. I always kept that out as a support.
Now, this is Zomo, Sheila. This is a critical thinking triangle map. On those of you who have the critical thinking triangle in action, would have these little maps in your kit.
This set of materials.
Yeah, in this set of materials. And it would look like this, and the children can put the laminated cards into the slots as you work with them over time. So this again makes everything very, very visual. So Zomo is not content being clever. You know what, I can't see.
Oh.
So how does he feel? He feels unhappy because he knows that wisdom is more than cleverness. It is also knowledge. He realizes that while he is clever, wisdom would help him lead a better life. So he decides to obtain wisdom. So we're thinking about Zomo the Rabbit. And Linda, you talked about the test questions here.
Yes, and so I used to like to present, somebody asked earlier, like, do you always have the thought bubble between the kickoff and the plan? And to first introduce to students this critical thinking triangle, I used to like to say, let's talk about Zomo's thinking, or whatever the character is. And I would say, let's think about their thinking. So I would use the word think as a generic term for the other ones. And then I would say, what does Zomo know for a fact, remember from the past, and realize he must do? Because to me, knowing for the fact and remembering from the past were those two thought ones. And when I used realize he must do last, to me that led the child into thinking about the plan. So I used to start with the kickoff initially, and then I went to the feeling, then I would go to the thought, the mental state verbs, because to me it segued me into that plan. But you do not have to do it that way. Once they understand these parts, you're going to move around and say, because he realized this because he felt blah, 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 or he remembered this from the past and it made him feel such and such. And you can go any way you want. But in the beginning, I think that's helpful. And Maryellen, what were you going to add?
I was just going to say, you'll get very comfortable with this over time.
Yes.
You know, it's something that it develops just our comfort, because it's hard to talk about something you're thinking as opposed to something you're feeling. And so thoughts often mediate our feelings, and we can get in, as you know, novels are so complex sometimes.
Correct.
But that's the way to go about it, because not all authors, even in books, start with the kickoff, of course.
Correct.
They start with the feeling that the character has, and then you're thinking, oh, I wonder what caused that. Well, that makes you then think of it in this way.
Correct.
So you can use your critical thinking triangle so many ways.
Yes. And I think that's important. If you have the critical thinking and triangle action tool next to you, as you are reading with a student, you would fill out that information as you go along. So you may be filling out the feeling first before you fill out this other one. But it's important that they use evidence from the text as well as evidence from the illustrations to determine what goes into the critical thinking triangle. Mm-hmm. This isn't thinking about your past experiences and what you think should be there. It has to be evidence from the text. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So on the next one, and then somebody asked another question about how often would you use, many sessions would you use a book? I always used a book for a minimum of 2. I always used it for a minimum of 2. I mean, to me, you're spending all this time reading it, you're spending all this time discussing it. I can't even get to what the strategy I'm trying to teach that day. So to me, it would be a minimum of 2 sessions, minimum.
And
so
I've always returned to the book.
Yeah.
Also, like after a couple of weeks, I would come back and they'd say, oh no, we did that already.
They love to say that.
Something different.
I know. And I go, I know, but it's so much fun to read a book a second time. So anyways, I took Zomo the Rabbit and I went with the 3 things. What does Zomo know? What does he remember? And what does he realize? And so I gave them all of you. He knew Wild Cow was vain and did not like to be teased. He remembered Wild Cow believed he was big and strong. He realized if he challenged him, he would try to prove Zomo's wrong. And then the last one was he knew if fish scales mixed with milk would make it slippery. He remembered where he walked every day. And so these are great things. What does he know? What does he remember from the past? And what do he realize he can do? And I always go in that sequence when I'm first teaching it.
And it's where to start. And that's what we wanted to do today, where to start.
Correct. Because we were realizing from the questions we were getting from people that we were probably telling too much information and talking too fast and blah, all this stuff going on, and we wanted to like really back up and get you a really handle on it. And then Maryellen has these adorable little thought bubbles, and they go right in order. Know, remember, realize, and you can put more than one character on this sheet, and it's tied into that critical thinking triangle. And I think it's lovely. It's, again, it's making their learning visible and their thinking.
In this one, we had all from Zomo's perspective here. There were so many thoughts and mental states.
Yes.
So
yes.
in this one, Linda, when you did this, you had like big fish, and
Right.
each of those characters that he tricks, they have their own story, which ultimately made them not happy with Zomo.
That's right.
So anyway, Big Fish's scales have fallen off and he's naked. That makes him feel embarrassed. He remembers that because he remembers that fish with no scales look funny. What does he know? He knows Zomo played music quickly so he would dance faster. That made him angry. As a result, he realized Zomo tricked him and his plan was to get even. This just kind of helps students realize how you get from a kickoff to a plan. It's always thoughts and feelings.
And it was good, your demonstration, because you're going back and forth. It's not just even in this linear fashion. You're going back and forth between thoughts, which affects your feelings, because it's your thoughts that give you that feeling. If it was just a ho-hum day, nothing going on, it wouldn't change your thinking, and it wouldn't change your feelings, and you would not come up with a plan.
Exactly. So then the jigsaw classroom, Linda.
Well, this is just one way, again, to teach the students these 4 elements of the critical thinking triangle. So in a jigsaw, students are broken up into various groups. So if we were using the jigsaw classroom, and these are some links on how to do it, so you can pull them up, and it's all great demonstrations and a lot of background information. But in a jigsaw, you would divide the students into 4 groups easily. So there would be it's easier if you work with the number of 4, if you have 4 items, depending on how number your elements are, but you're going to have a group of kids who are assigned in the group of 4. One child has the kickoff, one child has the feeling, one child has the mental state verbs, one child has the plan. And then they're going to divide up in the room. And so all the children in those group of 4, each child who has the kickoff in that group of 4 is going to go meet with the other children who have a kickoff. And all the children with the hearts are going to meet together, the feelings and the mental states and the plan. And they're going to have a discussion, and then the time is up, and they're going to come back into their group, and they're going to share what they learned with those other students that had the same element of the critical thinking triangle. And they're going to put that together, and it's their job to teach the other participants in their group their part. Then we wanted to just, again, tie into what we did the last time about teaching text comprehension. And we used the resource again from Close Reading, I think it was. And so I took again from the, text-dependent questions. You want to develop text-dependent questions for both narrative and expository text on whatever you're using, however, whether it's a picture book or a chapter book. And I liked to keep a copy of all the questions in that picture book inside a sheet protector, so that I always had them to use anytime I wanted to go back to that unit. And you don't have to map out all the questions, but I'm just mapping them out for you today so that you can decide when you use Zomo, which one would be the best one for you. So you're going to pick the element based on your student needs.
Yes. And so,
go ahead, Maryellen.
You go ahead. Use this chart.
So I just love this chart because Maryellen has taken all these, the words from the depth of knowledge, and these are the test question words that these kids are running into in a classroom. So based on where your student is, you're going to place them in the appropriate quadrant and work on those words in that quadrant. In terms of this student, he was in the 2nd quadrant, but he's really got to go back and learn some in the 1st. And he's in 8th grade. He's actually expected to know all of them on the entire dial. But this is a great tool for you to develop text-dependent questions.
And it's a good tool to use to collaborate with others, to show where you see a student in your practice, where they are, and relative to the curriculum that they have to deal with.
And this would be a great thing to take to your data team, the previous slide as well as this. These are things to take to that data team and talk about what is being expected from these students. And this is where they are and how are we going to get them there. So this is the depth, this is just additional information about that.
And this is,
yeah, a close-up of it.
A close-up of just the words, because so often they're being asked to hypothesize about something, and you know, they're in a very shallow color, light blue color of
right
ability.
Yeah. So the text-dependent questions, the link for these is on the bottom of the slide. And text-dependent questions, these are somebody has just written, what is text-dependent questions? A text-dependent question means that you have to go back to the text you read to answer it. It's not a question that's answered based on your background information in life or your personal experiences. A text-dependent question is related to the exact text that you're teaching the child right then and there. These visuals for all of this are in the visuals are in the handout, but these questions are in a link, and that's in the handout. So based on that, the key ideas and details, I came up with some text dependent. Who's the most important character? What's the lesson? And how describe or list how Zomo demonstrated cleverness. And on the next slide, I've provided you a map that shows how you would go over this information with your students. And I've written the topic sentence, and sometimes the entire paragraph is there for you. But it's all here in black and white. So those are the text-dependent questions for the first section. And then those are Maryellen's maps, once again. And then the second on craft and structure questions. On the next slide, I have the craft and structure questions. Explain what Sky God meant, divide the story into 3 parts, and distinguish the information provided, the pictures and the words. And on the following slides, I have Maryellen has divided a story into the beginning, the middle, and the end. And this is in, I think, the Story Grammar Marker manual. And as well as, I love this, what she's showing you, if you can see her in the video there.
Let's just, here, I'll just stop sharing for a second, because that
make it bigger. Yeah, this is great. I love this.
Yeah.
So these maps are in the Story Grammar Marker manual, the original manual, the beginning of a story, the middle of a story, and the end of a story. And what you can use it for is to show students that the whole story is here, but we can make a summary by doing this, the beginning and the end. And it's not the end all and be all for a summary, but it makes it very visual for them. So these are the parts you need to use in your summary. We have to use caution. That's why it's yellow in the middle. Have to use caution about what to include for all the attempts. So it begins and it ends this way. I thought you'd like to see that. All you need is some colored paper. Okay.
That's right.
Go ahead, Sheila. Now are you?
People are, yeah, I have too many things going on. Oh, you need to go back to the, sorry. Oh my God, I've got like 14 different, okay. There we go. All right.
All right. So now.
Yep, so that was great. And so we can go to the next slide.
Yeah.
And again, I just completed it for you. So you have all the information there. I'm just trying to make this all user-friendly. This is distinguish the information by the pictures and the words in Zomo the Rabbit. Again, the information is all here for you. And then the last type of text-dependent questions are integration of knowledge and ideas. And the questions I developed for that, how do the pictures convey the mood of the characters, and how does it compare to other characters we've read in other Trickster Tales. And I did it based on, I gave you a list map on how the pictures conveyed the mood. There's a summary at the bottom. And then I compared it to the book Borguida and the Coyote again, and you can, these books are great. What I loved about these 2 Trickster Tales is Zomo thinks he's so darn smart, but he's going to have to be running the rest of his life because somebody's after him. And in Borguida the Coyote, she tricks the coyote, and she never has to worry about ever being harassed by the coyote again. So it's 2 totally different ways of writing a Trickster Tale, and the kids just love it.
That's great.
I think this theme maker tool should be out all the time. I think if you're asking a text dependent question, initially you're going to point to the text structure to help guide their ability to answer it. As they go along, you're going to ask a text dependent question and they're going to choose which one of these text structures is the teacher asking me. How am I going to organize my thoughts? I just think it's great. It should be out all the time.
Because, you know, our students don't realize that there are a lot of information text structures. They know compare, contrast, but and maybe they think about cause effect sometime, but problem solution and you know, all of that is so important as they get older.
Right. And again, this is just a slide for you to see how you can think of some other questions that weren't in, that are not mapped, but you can use or do orally with them.
Linda, thanks for all that work using the exact words. You know,
yes, I think the maps will be great.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so impressed. It's 4:01.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
I can't believe it. I said to myself,
we still have some stuff to do.
okay.
But nevertheless, we've stopped yakking.
We actually got through the content, which is a major accomplishment. Oh my goodness, wow. Okay, if you can stop sharing, I'm going to share.
Okay.
That was awesome. Can you just, oh, sorry, you don't know how to.
Stop share, I do.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So thank you so much. We do have questions. So, and let's see. Let me get to, hold on a second. Let me get
Oh,
to
Marcia
my,
Zeger. Marcia.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. I think this is it. Okay, so we are going to do a giveaway, but I want to talk first just briefly about this, which is, if you can see this, I don't know if I've got, I can't see my chat when I'm in this mode here. This is what we're going to be offering for today's webinar. So this is where you get your handout, which is the PowerPoint slides. That is the handout, is the PowerPoint slides. You would have everything you need in that to do this lesson. And Linda delineated all of that, and Maryellen for you. The only thing you wouldn't have would be the actual book, which you can purchase, or Linda included that link. And so this is a download. We did a download in May, and that was really, really popular. People seem to really like this bite size of information that they can just use. So we have this, it's called the Story Grammar Marker Thinking Bubble Supplement. It's a 30-page downloadable, basically bonus resources that you can use along with this webinar lesson and anything else you do. This is the link to it, and I'm gonna just go to that to show you. This is this is where it is on the website. These are all of the things that it includes, and so, oh, can you not see that?
Well, that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was looking at your other stuff.
Sorry,
I don't know if everyone.
Sorry, I didn't share that for you. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is it, and you can download that, and then we will mail you the actual thinking bubble. Maryellen's just going to show you. We'll mail you the thinking bubble. It's a magnet, so if you're not using it on the Story Grammar Marker, that's okay. You can use it as a magnet. Mm-hmm. If you are using it with the Story Grammar Marker, you can do it that way, like we were showing. And so this is all the information about the download and all of the printable resources that come with that download. And so that's available. It just went live about 5 minutes ago. So that is available for you. And I also wanted to show you, if you search, and I know people are sending chats and I can't see them right now.
Well, somebody's wondering whether the thinking bubble that you're sending out now was in the previous download, and it was not.
No, oh no, this is, no, the only time this has been shared is at ASHA.
Correct.
If you were at ASHA in 2019, if you happen to be there, you may have purchased it.
Right.
But other than that, no, it has not been available. So, and then I also wanted to show you, if you type spider into our search here, sorry, I got this new laptop and now I'm totally discombobulated. So bear with me here. Okay.
I see you, Casey.
Casey's here.
What is Casey doing? My little 6-year-old here. Oh,
Mom, I can't hear you.
they can hear me. They can hear me in Nana's big microphone. Yeah. Okay, so
Here,
I just
right
want to
here.
show you this resource. Yes.
She's talking.
This is a very elaborate resource that you can use. It's free. So if you type in spiders into our search here, Linda had mentioned Anansi. And so these are 4 Anansi picture books, and they're analyzed, as you can see. And there are also, I think, some downloads that come with it. There's expository text here, some compare and contrast, listing, and also perspective taking. And then there's also like a little art project type thing that can be done. And then the spider and the fly, which would be something to compare it to, and then some other online resources and books that, and this was done by Maryellen's sister Sheila, who was a kindergarten teacher and a special educator for 38 years. And so I thought that that would kind of relate to this for those of you that were looking for some other picture books, that might be of interest. And then now we are going, and I'm going to, I should say that again, we do have digital resources, and I will go back and show you that because I forgot, a couple people had asked about that. Let me just show that really quick because I know that in the fall or late summer, some of you go back in the late summer. So if you type distance, I think that should come up. Let's see. Distance learning on the side here in the toolbar, or if you type icons, all of those things come up here. These are our icon sets. So this is the universal set. It comes with 127 of our icons and images, all to use with Brady, Story Grammar Marker, and Theme Maker for Theme Makers for expository text. So you can make custom worksheets. You can use on PowerPoint slides, Google Classroom, Google Hangouts, Zoom. You can use in the classroom on smart boards. You can, share with parents. There's a lot of different creative ways you can use them, and using them in some of the ways that Linda and Maryellen use them today. They can be used like that. So that's where you will find those. You don't have to purchase all. You can also purchase, you see here that there's a set that is just the Brady icons. There's a set that is just the Story Grammar Marker icons, and a set that's the Theme Maker icons. So I hope that's helpful. We are going to, and our app is also available. I don't have I don't have my iPad on me at the moment, but it's called the SGM app. I'm going to type it into the chat, and it's available on the iPad. So, and it's on sale right now, actually. So we put it on sale for COVID, and it will continue to be on sale through the beginning of the school year, at least, just because we know people are struggling right now with different resources to use. So now we are going to do our raffle. So let me I got to get my little app here. Okay.
Can I just say one thing? Somebody made a comment, and I think it was a good one. She said that in the beginning we went nice and slow when we were doing the background information, but when we get to the end, we get going fast. And she's absolutely right. We're having fun, conversing, doing a workshop like we normally do. We love it when you ask questions. We like to show you other resources. We get a little off track. And then at the end, we're like trying to get through all of it. And I would really, really just ask you to email us or to set up a time to Zoom with us, because I am more than happy to spend more time with anyone going over those maps. I'm so used to doing them, and they're easy to think of the questions, and the maps come right to my mind, and I think almost we need to do a thing on just text-dependent questions and coming up with the map, like what would be right on that. So it's a wonderful, good feedback. And
Yes, it is. And
please
I think,
email us.
yeah, and I think too, and that's a great point, Linda. And I think too that what this has given everybody is among these 9 free webinars, we've done our best, but we also, we do have a business which we're struggling right now a little bit of figuring out where we fall, because we do so many in-person trainings. But we've done a lot of remote trainings this summer on Zoom, and we've come back with amazing feedback from doing them online in this way, virtual workshops and virtual consulting we've done, and Linda and Maryellen are available for those kind of things too. So we'll definitely have more information about that soon. We are going to we will answer more questions. I want to get to the giveaway okay. So, and actually one more thing, if you have trouble finding the app, you might want to search MindWing because we're the developer. So it might be that you have to search MindWing. But Maryellen and I wanted to show you these amazing things that Linda, the talented sewer that she is, we don't even have this on our website or anything, but Linda has made these special DHH friendly and SLP friendly masks that have the vinyl in them. And I don't know if I'm going to take mine off so you can see close up. Do you see it says, "Tell me your story"? And the mask, and it's got the, the part here you can put over the bridge of your nose. And people are asking where these can, so Linda is busy sewing.
That's right.
It takes like an hour to make each one, which is just nuts. But they're super comfortable. And Linda, and you said they're made of like a pedal soft material, and these are, what did you say, latex free?
Latex free.
For your ears.
And they hit just in the right parts so your glasses don't get fogged up and things like that.
And they're just, they are beautiful. And we thank you, Linda, for helping me design the fabric. And we got the pattern from something called the DHH project, and it's a group of educators that decided to sew them. So the clear part, you can put things inside of it that will, like, one of the things is like rub a little bit of toothpaste on the inside, and that will. So far we've decided that we're going to give away 100 of these. I'm sorry, Hannah, I just noticed we aren't in the office because we are working remotely. So if you had a question, please email me. So right now we're going to be giving these away for free. There's going to be 100 given away starting mid-August, and it's kind of going to be, we'll announce then how you can get one. So you can't purchase one yet, but you can win one. So we're giving these, yes. So Linda is making these, and she is so talented.
As we speak.
You can see the details. She even lines up like all the, she lines up all the icons on the side. Is that insane? Like, I can't even get over it. So, all right, now we're gonna do the raffle because now I've delayed you. Okay, here we go. So the first one is going to be well, you can choose, I guess. You can either choose let me put it up on the screen so that wait a minute. Where am I here? Okay. You can either choose where are the prizes here?
Hi, Holly.
Oh, hi, Halls.
Hi, Holly.
Okay, so you can either choose a cohesive tie jargon set that we showed, or you can choose the universal icon set, or you can choose the discourse and thought development chart. So whoever wins, you can choose among those three. So, okay, so I'm gonna go on my app here, and you have to be present to win, obviously. So the first winner is Kathy Stillwell. And Kathy, just message us in the chat what you would like. So Kathy Stillwell, I don't have my chat open right now, so I can't tell if you're emailing. The next winner is.
She said she'd like the digital icons.
Okay.
Yes.
The next winner is Rosalba Rocchio. Rosalba Rocchio. Okay. And you can choose any of those three. And then the final winner is Christine Davis. That name sounds familiar. Has she won before? That would be funny. I don't know. Christine Davis is the next winner. And so those are our three winners.
I've got them.
And if you want to say in the chat just what you would like.
Rosalba.
Christine wants the digital icons, but the Rosala, I forgot the name,
Rosalba?
didn't say what she wanted.
Not
Okay.
yet.
All right. Well, we can always contact her if if she didn't respond. That's okay. We can.
She wants the digital icons as well.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Okay.
I
So
think that's a great choice.
So, and I'm just gonna, I just had this up here too. You know, we are scheduling virtual video conference, web-based PD. We're in the middle of scheduling for going forward, you know, back to school and fall. Also mentoring, like Linda mentioned, you know, we can delve really much more deeply into a lot of these things if we have time. These hour-and-a-half long things are just so quick, and we really almost need like a full day for each of these, to be quite honest. But I also, and I all the other information, I think I want to go back here just so you have it, is at the mindwinconcepts.com/pages/webinars. You'll be able to find the handout. You'll be able to find the certificate of attendance, and whatever else you need. And then what else was like? Another thing I was just going to say, for those of you that are left, we are planning to launch a subscription series where you would be getting some bite-size information. Oh yeah, I'll post that. Somebody just asked.
That is true.
That link again.
GRRM is Gradual Release of Responsibility Model.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Somebody just wanted this slide
I know.
again. So, so we're going to be launching a subscription series that is going to be more of bite-size lessons and what you can do tomorrow kind of things, whether they be webinars or downloads that we are going to be able to offer continually throughout the year.
In depth.
Much more in depth than a blog or a quick, you know, lesson idea. And so, you know, be looking for that from us soon, because that probably will have something to do with how we end up sharing our fancy masks.
And make sure you save the chat box, because we have a lot of questions in there.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can answer some of them now. Let me
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna get you back on. And there's a couple of questions. Let's see. Some of them. Let's see. Thank you.
When do we want to
Okay.
launch the subscription?
Okay, so those were, so I think we, let's see. Oh, who's this? Wait a minute.
You don't age at all. That's hysterical.
Oh, Lindsay. Hi,
my
Lindsay.
goodness.
Yes. Oh my
How are you, Lindsay?
Oh
And-
my gosh, how funny.
It has been almost 20 years. Oh my gosh, Lynette Kurzbeck, and more than 9 years.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
That's hysterical. That's good. See, my gray is just starting to show up, Lindsay.
I'm hiding
Oh,
mine.
mine.
Oh, nice to hear from you, dear.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. Yes. So, Like, I'm just gonna, I gotta say.
Holly said, really, you need to sell these. We were using the shield, but now we were told we need to wear a mask.
Well, this is,
Yeah.
this is true.
I know. I agree with you, Holly. I agree.
I
My
do too.
my sister who's in kindergarten wants one, especially the kindergarten and first grade teachers. And yeah, you need to see the mouth.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I was a speedy sewer, I'd make a gazillion a day, but you know.
Well, you know,
Well,
there's,
yeah,
I get
no,
a
we're gonna get,
subscription.
so I'm gonna see if, so the PowerPoint is, this webinar is being recorded and the PowerPoint will be available. The recording will probably be available later tonight. It has to render and I have to be able to post the link once it's on demand. So I will get this to you as soon as I can. And wait, let's see.
What?
Yes. Okay. And then
It
you
doesn't
just,
cover
all you have
something.
to do is go to, sorry about that. I'm just going, I'm trying to.
Yeah, the mask doesn't cover the top of the mouth as long as you make sure you pinch it. You have to pinch it up higher on the nose. That's the design of it. I think it's made, you know, just to make sure you cover faces that might be longer. So you have to put it up higher. I agree.
Yep.
Yep, that's good. You just have to pinch it up higher. Yeah.
Yep. And then it covers.
That's
So,
great.
okay. So let's see.
Somebody has a question about assessment, how deeply we assess the sample. We assess the sample using Maryellen's progress monitoring tool. So as in-depth as both of those tools are, the macro and the micro, that's what we look at. Now, if you're doing it quick and dirty on a day-to-day lesson, you might just write little notes for yourself on a little cheat sheet you're having and just, you know, pay attention to the cohesive ties they use that day, or you might just be looking for linguistic verbs, whatever your lesson is. But when it comes to doing a formative assessment, you're going to be looking at those areas.
I agree.
And I do record it and I listen back to it because I have no memory for doing that off the top of my head.
And also, if you record it, you can use it later to hear how they were, you know.
Yes.
And Dora just said they're recommending clear mask for SLPs. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does, and these are actually really comfortable. I mean, I've
And-
worn mine, and you know.
the way they're stitched around the visual part, it's a beautiful stitching. It's so tight there. And you spent a lot of time on that.
Yeah, it's a good pattern.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and I know we had other questions. I just have to. I'm answering answering things as I go along. I just want to. I will scroll back in a second. We still have quite a few people on. Yeah, I will share the chat. I think I can share the chat if I do a certain. I think I'm able to share the chat. I'm just going to scroll back. I know there were other questions that I don't know. I think a lot of them we answered as we went along. There were some at the end where.
The other webinars are available by going on to MindWing Concepts and going into webinars, and you'll see them all listed.
Let's see. As a SPED teacher. Oh yeah. Okay.
I haven't made any solid ones right now. I'm trying to just make them with Maryellen's fabric, but I have a gazillion people asking for them as well. So.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
very
beautiful.
I think we could make them out of solid purple because that's their signature color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we came up with the fabric because it fits our message and our image and that kind of thing.
Right.
You know, Danielle, we had the fabric, we designed the fabric ourselves and we had it made. We actually ordered just enough to make the 100 masks that we're giving away. But as we see how things progress, which I mean, I'm assuming we're going to be wearing masks for like a year. I can't imagine that we won't be. And I hate to say that, but I think that's probably what will happen. At least, you know, when we're in closed spaces and that kind of thing. So I think we'll probably end up making more or figuring out a way to make more. And so we, you know, and I noticed a couple of questions about, let's see, oh, the link for the mask pattern for, yeah, let me find, hold on, I have it.
I know, I was looking that up right now. I know on Joanne Fabric, they
Hold
had
on.
it.
Wait a second. And there was a website, I don't know if
They won't be as great as this though.
oh no, it won't be as great as Linda's because Linda is just,
Won't be.
let's see.
There's a DHH Mask Project home on Facebook. It says DHH Mask Project and Tutorial for the deaf community.
Yes.
It looks like you go to dsha.org.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna put that's the Google Drive like link, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and there's a picture of the woman wearing a, I don't know if you can see that, but you see.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a few of them. Yeah, somebody else posted a link to the deaf and hard of hearing friendly and SLP friendly mask. So yeah, there, and we actually saw that, and then we thought, you know what, let's have something that is about Story Grammar Marker and Brady and about us and something kind of exciting. And Linda, luckily, is like the sewer extraordinaire. So
just wonderful.
we really lucked out. So anyway, okay, so again, for the certificate, it's the, let's see, it should be up there soon. I don't know exactly how soon. Usually I don't put it up before the webinar's over just because, you know, yes, the fabric is glorious. We are very proud of it. I gotta be honest.
That's right.
We got it. We were so excited the day we got it. We were like pulling it out and so thrilled. So that's the link again. It's our webinar. It's under, if you go directly to our website, it's just on, it's under workshops and professional development. And so everyone wants to know how to win and how to get the
subscription.
Yeah. Anyway, so okay, well, oh my goodness. Oh, a few people wrote. Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you. Thanks. Good to see you, Holly, or see your name. I can't see you, but I hope you're having a good summer. So this is our last webinar of the summer. Maryellen is going to be working with Linda on a couple of other projects, and also we are working on our parent guide for Story Grammar Marker to support teachers and speech pathologists who are possibly having to teach remotely and want to be able to partner with parents, and also for parents who may be homeschooling, because we know that's an element too, but it's mostly for supporting what's going on with the clinician and the teacher and special educators. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be working on that, and we have a few other really exciting things coming out. But for now, we are going to leave you with our thinking about our masks.
Yes.
And thanking Linda again for presenting.
You're welcome.
For making these masks. And let's see, we're gonna get
thank you for your expertise.
I gotta get mine in the right.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And save the chat.
Yeah, I got it. I'm
Yes.
saving it again right now, just in case.
There you go.
I'm paranoid that I.
Exactly.
Let's see. I think this is it. Let's see.
Just call us if you need any support or any kind of enrichment.
Okay. So, all right. I'm just going to save this one more time so I don't lose it. Okay. I'm like, I'm like a crazy person here because I'm trying to, okay. All right. Chat, and what's the date? 7/23, 7/29. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all. And I'm going to save the chat. I'm going to make sure that, oh yes. Oh my gosh. Fairfax County. Yes. We're not doing a discount today. Judy, we aren't doing a discount just because we usually do like, but we don't do them often, and we did a big one last time. So instead of doing the discount, sorry, I don't know if you could hear me because I'm talking into the, we didn't do the discount this time because we are doing the special download. And if you order something else, that is awesome. But for now, oh, hi, Melanie, aloha. So thank you so much. I know we could keep going on forever, but now it's 4:30. So
That's right.
we did give you 2 hours. We did give you 2 hours of time on the certificate of attendance because we did go over. So anyway, so thank you all. Have a good rest of July. 2 days, 2 more days of it. And we will see you soon with all the new things that we have going on, and we will
tuned.
definitely be in touch about our masks. Thank you so much, Linda.
You're welcome.
For your hard work.
Have a nice night.
Okay.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for all the
Bye.
positive feedback.
Okay.
Thanks for the positive feedback. Bye.